It is.
Because
I
we thought it was
agree.
gone before last year.
You heard it on the flow first.
Running back is back. But to your Jay Ajayi, just to play devil's advocate, he had 2 touchdowns last year, 1 rushing, 1
really
receiving.
low. And that's one of my points is that I think that's such a blimp on the radar. Like, that's insane. Exactly. Like, that's insane that he only had 2. And that's why I think he finished last year 30th. And that's a big reason why, because touchdowns give you so many points. The other 2 guys I want to mention, Marlon Mack is being drafted as running back number 33. If Andrew Luck is healthy, Marlon Mack is going to have room to run, and he's going to be really good. Carlos Hyde last year was running back number 9. Yeah, he goes to Cleveland. He's being drafted, though, as running back number 41. If he wins the job, that's a good offense. He's going to finish higher than that. So if you're late in the rounds, take a flyer on Carlos Hyde. I know Nick Chubb is there, but Carlos Hyde's a proven veteran. So a lot of interesting running backs. But wide receivers, another one of your boys.
Yeah, another. Put the Homer earplugs on.
But I will say they are legitimate. I like this guy too.
Cam Meredith. He's a New Orleans Saint. People are like, who? Well, you would have heard of him if he did not tear his ACL in preseason game number 3 last year against the Tennessee Titans. Cam Meredith was a former high school quarterback. I went to high school with Cam. Then he went on to Illinois State to play quarterback, but he sat on the bench because the quarterback was better, but his coach realized he was the best athlete on the field, turned him into a wide receiver, made school records at Illinois State his junior and senior year, undrafted free agent by the Bears 2 years ago. 3 years ago now. 2015 played a little bit. 2016 he had his breakout season, 66 receptions for 888 yards, 4 touchdowns, and that was with 3 different quarterbacks.
Showed he can do it though. That's a good style, and he showed he can be that type of player.
Again, tore his ACL last year. He was a restricted free agent. The Bears didn't match the $1 million signing sheet that the Saints gave him last year, so now he's got Hall of Famer to be Drew Brees throwing him the rock.
Man.
And Cam's big. Cam's about 6'6". He's a workhorse. He's been working his tail off trying to get ready for this season. Watch out for Cam Meredith. He's a deep threat in New Orleans, and that's a place where they love to air it out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Cam is going to be really good. I'm targeting him in drafts for sure. The other guy I'm targeting, D.D. Westbrook.
Love this guy.
You might remember it, Oklahoma.
Didn't do much last year.
No. Had over 100 passes, though, in college. He was up for the Heisman as a receiver. That never happens. Him and Baker were absolutely unbelievable. Here's my thing with D.D. is at the end of last year, they started to actually play this guy. He gets open. I mean, look at his hit.
He's on Jacksonville, for those who don't know.
He had on Jacksonville. Good point. He had 22%, though, of the target share the last, I think, 5 weeks of the season, which is, I mean, elite wide receivers get about 20 to 25%, more on the 25% range. So Bortles liked throwing to this guy. He's not even being drafted, and he could be the number 1 receiver on the offense that scored the second most points in the AFC. This guy is a sleeping giant. Please freaking pick him, and I guarantee you'll be happy.
He was hurt last year at the beginning of the season, so that's why he didn't come on the scene. And then finally, when he was healthy, didn't have great production at the end of the year. But again, they had the running game going last year. They didn't really need D.D. It's like, all right, we're going to transition you into the season next year. I like D.D.
I do too. The other guy, I was going to mention, Corey Davis, I like him a lot. The other guy, though, that's a huge sleeper.
Is that Broncos?
Corey Davis, Titans, yes. Titans. Former number 1 overall wide receiver taken in the draft, Western Michigan. Good guy.
Mike Williams. Charges.
Unbelievable player for the Clemson Tigers, but got injured last year. He's going to be, again, the second receiver on Phillip Rivers' team. And as you mentioned, he threw it the second most times last year, so he's going to get targets. He's extremely talented. Now he's healthy. Another guy who's being drafted so low that would not be surprising at all if he finished top 30 at the position. I like you doubling
up your... I like to double up a quarterback wide receiver if I can. Mm-hmm. So, if you go Phillip Rivers and then Mike Williams.
Okay.
It's a nice little caveat there.
Cap it off with tight end, Rick. Who you got?
Yeah, tight ends suck, but Evan Ingram, he's new vamped Giants offense, we hope, with Saquon Barkley coming into town. Had 722 yards and 6 touchdowns last year, but he had some receiving problems. Mm-hmm. He only caught 64 of the 115 targets he had. But when he did catch it, it was for a big gain, averaged 11.3 yards per reception. Evan Ingram was supposed to be good last year, came on the scene a little bit.
Yeah.
I think this year is going to be a good year for him.
I think so, too. I think when Odell went down and then Shepard, too, he kind of had to play a bigger role than he was supposed to.
Bad year for the Giants.
My guy's Jordan Reed, currently tight end 8, A lot of injury concerns, but don't forget, in 2015, 87 receptions, 957 yards, and 11 touchdowns.
Alex Smith throwing him the rock now?
And now Alex Smith's at quarterback. And look what he did with Travis Kelce. He likes throwing to his tight ends. If Jordan Reed can, again, just stay on the field, he has elite top 3 upside. So they're the flow boys for fantasy football. I love this. We might do that every week. I think every week maybe we touch on some dudes.
Yeah. Maybe some higher profile guys next week.
Quickly, let's quickly talk about the Twins trade deadline. They trade 5 guys: Eduardo Escobar, Lance Lynn, Ryan Presley, Brian Dozier, Zach Duke. They get 11 prospects, 5 of which are in the top 30 prospects list for the Twins. Rick, what was your reaction when all these guys were being shipped away?
Oh, well, who's left? I don't know. It just confuses me as to what Falvey and Levine are trying to do. In terms of where they were last year and where they are now, it's completely different. And you could see them losing, 100 games again next year.
Yep.
Because you can't trust on Sano, and Buxton's back on the DL. I don't know. It upset me as an outside fan looking in.
I think it makes sense. All these moves make sense to me. The only guy I'm a little bit rubbing my head about is Ryan Presley, because he was elite this year. I mean, he was very good. And you need those bullpen guys in the MLB. And he was the only guy that wasn't in an expiring contract, so we could have held on to him longer. Brian Dozier, it makes sense.
Oh,
Nick
he
Gordon,
loves L.A.
Yes, he's 2 bombs last first 2 games, 2 bombs. Here comes Brian Dozier's second half of season surge. Yeah. But we had to get rid of him. I mean, Eduardo Escobar as well, because Nick Gordon's ready. Jorge Polanco's in the infield. Miguel Sano's not going anywhere, in my opinion.
And this is as good as Escobar's going to be in his
Wander
career.
Javier, we sold high on him. I totally agree. Wander Javier is one of the system's best prospects. He's a middle infielder. Royce Lewis, former number 1 overall pick, is a shortstop. So it makes sense. It's discouraging. My one thing is I wish that they would have had the foresight to trade Dozier either at last year's deadline or this offseason, so he would have had more value. We kind of tried to go for it. I understand it, but it is disappointing. Lastly, we'll end on one thought. Rick, what is yours?
Brian Urlacher's going into the Hall of Fame. I remember as a little kid racing home from church on Sunday so I could watch the Bears game, because church was at 11:30, ends at 12:15-ish, and then the game, right when the game kicks off, just to see the Bears monsters of the Midway defense. Here's some career stats. Brian Urlacher played 182 games. He had 6 seasons with 90 or more tackles, which is crazy. He had 5 seasons with 5 or more sacks, finished with 41.5 career sacks. Pretty good. 22 interceptions, 5 career touchdowns, 8-time Pro Bowler. He was the Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2000, and he was drafted out of New Mexico as a wide receiver / safety. So he was a freak of an athlete. All right, so he goes from a safety wide receiver to middle linebacker in the NFL, wins Defensive Rookie of the Year. Pretty impressive. Then in 2005, he was Defensive Player of the Year, 4-time All-Pro Bowler, and he played in an era where the linebacking position was stacked.
Super important.
We went Junior Seau and
Ray Lewis,
Zach Thomas out of Miami.
Love Zach Thomas out of Miami.
A lot of good linebackers in the Brian Urlacher era, and he's recognized as a Hall of Famer now. Pretty cool.
So you went Bears, I had to go Vikes. Showtime Moss gets in as well. Just for some perspective for you folks, he led the league in touchdowns his rookie year with 17. I believe Randall Cunningham throwing him the ball. Unbelievable. He had over 1,300 yards that season too. The craziest stat, 19 yards per reception.
Yeah,
that is crazy. That is absolutely a crazy number. He has the record for most touchdowns in the season when he went with Tom Tutties. He got 23 touchdowns with Tom Brady in that elite offense. Yes. He led the league in touchdown catches 5 times, which is unbelievable. His last being at age 32 for New England. 6-time Pro Bowler, which is an absolute crime. He should have been a Pro Bowler every single year. 4-time All-Pro. That is also a joke. But he's second all-time in career touchdowns behind the one and only Jerry Rice. He has 156. Big Jerry, 197. Episode 17.
That's a good one thought.
Stamped and sealed.
Done.
Good episode, Rick.
Yeah, big things coming down the road for the flow.
And until then, we'll see you next week. For Ricky Pimo Palermo, Brandon Morton, our online engineer and producer, and Brian Powers, our personal DJ, my name is Alex Zappa, and thank you for catching The Flow.